All right, Scott Bass, welcome back to the show. And look at this, surfnvs.com for one-off collaborations like the boardroom show Twin Fin.
Yeah, that was cool. They made that for us last year. And I put that in a board recently.
I know, you told me about it.
Yeah.
They made 11 sets of fins. I got set number 5, as noted here. Did you get set number 1?
I don't know. I haven't looked. I'm not sure.
Okay. I'm curious. I would think number 1 should go to you. We love their fins. You can get them single fins, twins, quads, tri-fins, whatever you need at surfnvs.com. But they also do collaborations. Fins that were developed by other people, like these S-Wings. They've got the C-Drives. They've got the Shane Harans. They're designs that, you've seen Tom Curran riding, but you're like, I don't know where I could buy those. They're brokering those deals to manufacture the fins for those pioneers in the space. So go check out their wide selection of freaky stuff like this.
Absolutely. NVS fins. Those, have you tried those? Have you ridden those?
I haven't ridden them yet. I haven't been riding any twin fins for a bit.
For some reason, I feel like I need a wide-tailed board for those fins. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, well, we'll get on it eventually. I would love to be able to speak to the attributes of it, because even theoretically, I'm not sure I fully understand it, but curious for sure.
Yeah, I surfed with Shabi, the guy who designed those last year at the boardroom show. He was down here and we surfed together at Cardiff, and he was ripping with his fins.
Was he? Do you know what he was riding?
He was riding like a fish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, like I said, go check them out. They also do collaborations with a wide range of surfboard shapers. One of whom we never mentioned, but he's going to be in today's show notes later, and it's Timmy Patterson. So check out the Timmy. They've got Timmy thrusters and Timmy twin fins. So go check it all out at surfnvs.com. And also, if you happen to need a new surfboard, guess what? Real Water Sports just got a drop of 80 Channel Island surfboards. So I'm going to show you right here. Check this out. Pretty incredible. Scott, don't get too excited.
I'm going to Real Water Sports right now.
Just look at the board loft.
Oh, yeah.
How incredible. We're just, sorry for the audio listeners that where it's silent right now, but we're just salivating.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, what I need is a 6'6", I think it's called the Happy Traveler.
Yeah.
That's
for
what
Indo?
I went down to the surf shop the other day. I went to like 2 or 3 different ones and found the 6'6" Happy Traveler that I'm in dire need of.
Well, there you go. Anything, any size. I mean, look, 80 surfboards from Channel Islands, but they've also got all the other major brands and then a lot of smaller shapers that they work with and actually develop like proprietary models that only Real Water Sports has. So they're doing an incredible service for us, the surfers who need to buy boards, but also for the shaping community as well. So check it all out. 1,500 surfboard inventory at realwatersports.com.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, guy. Oh, my God, it's Spit, David. It's the Spit Surfing Podcast. We've been podcasting for a long time. And it's Wednesday, June 17th. And good morning to you, David Lee Scales.
Good morning, Scott Bass. How long have we been podcasting?
I want to say since, I'm going to guess, was it 2012?
13, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, that you asked me recently, so I looked it up not that long ago. I want to say July, but hold on, I'll scroll real quick and find it. But that's more than 10 years. That's 13 years, basically. September 1st, 2013. So we're coming up on an anniversary pretty soon.
All right. An anniversary? What are you going to get me?
Go have a fancy dinner.
Couple things.
We'll celebrate at the boardroom show. How's that?
That's a good idea. One thing is at some point I got to get those mini DVs. I look at them every day, and somehow I got to get them transferred over to just, digital, access them digitally rather than on this little tape, mini DV tape of the original podcast that we did with Surfer Magazine back in 2005. I'm sure that there's a bunch of really hideous ones, and there's probably a couple of moments of gems,
Well, you say we. That is not we. I mean, there was you. I was not involved, is what I'm saying. You were doing it in 2005.
You're smart to distance yourself.
I don't want the listeners to be confused. You started, I want to say it was 2005.
Yeah, 2005.
Down the line, Surf Talk Radio.
Yeah, with Surfer Magazine. And Zach Weisberg was one of my cohorts, and John Fowler. Both of those guys have gone on to great things. A couple of other guys, too, helped me out. But anyway.
How many episodes are there?
I don't know. I've got a box. There's probably 30 or 40 episodes, maybe.
Okay.
Like a lot of them are probably horrible. Probably majority of them are horrible, but there might be some gems because I know, like I interviewed, what I can remember is that I interviewed Jamie O'Brien, I interviewed Rusty and Skip Fry and Herbie Fletcher and Jeff Booth and Dave Rostovich and Greg Knoll, Machado. So these are just some of the ones that are coming to my mind. But again, there's probably just little moments that are worthy, and there's probably it's probably too much me and not enough of them. That would be what I'm guessing.
Is that something you've learned to adjust in your modern interviewing technique?
I'm trying to. Less of me is better for sure.
That's always been my philosophy. Not about you, but I'm like, get out of the way of
It's okay, David.
Get out of the way of interesting people is my interview philosophy.
Well, when we were talking about real water sports and their Channel Islands, a little anecdote came to me because I was surfing yesterday, and I ran into an old buddy of mine, Kai, and he was going on his first trip to the Mentawais, and I was like, "Dude, what boards are you bringing?" And he's like, "Oh, just some high performance boards, like." And we were talking. It's like you can't really go wrong with like just going and picking up some Channel Island surfboards for your trip. Like these kinds of trips are like trips where you're not like necessarily thinking, oh, I'll experiment with an ASIM tail and an and these trippy designs. Like this is the kind of trip where like if you just get a basic killer surfboard from like Channel Islands or Lost or Timmy Patterson or Rusty or whatever, you're gonna be in a good place. You want something you can count on, in my opinion. If you're surfing 8-foot HTs or whatever, you want something that is going to go good.
Yeah.
And that's where the real water sports and the Channel Islands and those guys come in.
Those boards are proven. Yeah, totally agree. Very good. Well, where do we begin today? I mean, El Salvador comp ended. I mentioned Brazil, believe it or not, starts in 2 days. It's a super quick turnaround.
Well, yeah. I've got, if you want, I've got a new iteration of Who Said That. And it's called Surfer X, David. But it's basically the same concept. I spit out a little bit of history, and you try to determine who Surfer X is in this historical anecdote. Are you ready for this game, David?
So we're not relying on a quote necessarily.
No, it's more like a piece of editorial that I gleaned.
Okay.
Okay.
I like it.
Who's Surfer X? Are you ready? Here we go. Surfer X.
Yes.
Surfer X was the other champion. Surfer X set a superb example of what competitive sportsmanship is all about. During the second heat of the Duke preliminaries in 1979, Rabbit snapped the tail off of his own board. A swim to the beach for another board would have been fatal for Rabbit advancing to the next round. Unfortunately, he didn't have a caddy in the water with a second board. Rabbit swam over to the channel anyway and approached Surfer X's caddy. Surfer X on the inside, paddling back out, nodded his approval. And Bugs was back in the running, fighting his way into third place and advancing along with Surfer X into the next round. David, who was Surfer X? Was it A, Peter Townend, B, Wes Lane, C, Willie Morris, or D, Michael Ho?
Jeez Louise. What was this? Give me the names again.
Peter Townend, Wes Lane, Willie Morris, Michael Ho.
Wes Lane. Jeez, I don't know. Wes Lane.
Wrong, David, wrong. And it's an issue. I put Wes Lane in there because it was the Duke preliminaries in 1979. And I don't believe Wes Lane was on the scene until the early 80s, probably 1980 on.
Willie Morris?
No, another one I threw in there to
well, you said the other champion, which makes me feel like he wasn't actually a champion, and the other two are champs.
Right. Well, Michael Ho.
I guess Michael Ho is not a champ, or not a World Tour champ anyways.
Well, maybe that concept of champion was taken out of context, but we'll see. So anyway, Michael Ho was the guy, and that was awfully good of him. Here's another version of Surfer X. This occurred during the same event. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Another pretty amazing thing happened at the 1979 Duke Invitational. Surfer X surfed his way into the finals, but he gave up his spot when he was offered a commentary position for ABC television. Bobby Owens was the next in line and took Surfer X's spot in the final. David, who was Surfer X? Was it A, Mark Warren, B, Ian Cairns, C, James Jones, or D, Reno Abalera?
I don't know who James Jones is. I'm going to go, Reno seems like a showman who would want that position, but I'm going to go Mark Warren.
David, that's a great guess because Mark Warren went on to become a broadcaster and a commentator for ABC Sports in Australia. But you're wrong. It wasn't Mark Warren. And Ian Cairns, another guy that's quite gregarious and a great commentator. No. Reno Abalera, you're right. He is a really good showman. But no, it wasn't Reno either. It was James Jones. And it surprises me that you don't know who James Jones is. The first guy to get a tube ride at Waimea Bay, a Duke champion himself, and a legendary big wave surfer from the North Shore in the 1970s, James Jones.
Is he still around?
He is. He is still around. He, I believe he does real estate or something like that. Or I think he's actually an appraisal. I think he does home appraisals. But I could be wrong. I could be very wrong.
Feels like a Surf Splendor interview potential right here. James Jones, man of mystery, switch stance legend, and man of intrigue. From an article written by Matt Warshaw in 2014.
Yeah, tell us more about James Jones. He's a really fascinating character.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a full article, so I'll just read you, I guess, a little bit of it because I don't know what the important parts are. I'll just start at the beginning. James Jones is a mystery. To me, to you, and the rest of surfing, always has been. Fantastic surfer, incredibly solid on his feet, courage and style to burn, two-time Duke winner, switch foot ace, so at home in the tube, he could redecorate the place. And, of course, the first great Waimea tube rider. Handsome, too. Looked like Bobby Sherman's tough little bro. Yet Jones is rarely mentioned in the same breath as all the Rushmore sides to North Shore surfers of the mid to early 70s. Is it because he was too aloof? Maybe. Then again, Lopez put out the same vibe, and it did nothing to expand his legend. What else? Sense of humor a little underdeveloped. Mustache not full on enough. Bit of a drop-in artist. The nickname perhaps. No, Booby, quote unquote, was an affront, but not a reputation buster. Hell, Gordon Clark commanded a surfing empire, and he always answered to the name Grubby. I'm grasping here, baffled. In just a word, James Jones' star would be a good few degrees higher than it is, but he got overlooked somehow, somewhere, and there it is. Do him a service of watching this clip if your heart isn't filled to bursting with surf cast pride and honor. Rip the epaulets from your jacket, break your sword, and weep tears of shame. And then there's a video clip.
Yeah, well, look, James Jones, and he was did the commentary. What's funny about that, right, is like you got to figure he's like, I'm in the final of the Duke, and now ABC's going, hey, we need a commentator. You're handsome and you seem like you can spit out a few sentences. Would you like to join Jim McKay in the booth here as we do color commentary on this event? You're in the final, and you're like, yeah, I'll do the color commentary. So what that tells me is that they were hanging a pretty fat check in front of James Jones, and I'm assuming this is all just me guessing, but he's like, if I win the Duke, I'm going to get X. If I just do this ABC thing, I'm going to get X times 4. You know, like I'm a winner either way. I made the finals and I got a fat check.
The idea that the commentators would earn more than the competitors is wild.
I'm just assuming that. I'm assuming that would be the only reason you would bail out on the finals of the Duke.
That would be the only reason I could imagine as well. Yeah. But that is wild.
Yeah.
Well, great bit of information or surf history that I was totally unaware of.
Yeah, man. You know what? It's a super El Nino, David. That means the Best in Show board build-off presented by Real Water Sports is the big wave guns category. So we're asking all surf shapers, as James Jones was. He built his own boards, James Jones. They had a big Tube Rider logo. They were pretty cool. Any and all shapers, it's free to enter, $5,000. $5,000, David, which is probably about what James Jones earned as the ABC TV commentator. $5,000 first prize for the Best in Show board build-off. Build us a big wave gun. It's free to enter. And we've already got some great entries coming in. Stretch and Tim Stamps and Chris Christensen and many others. So we're very excited about these big wave guns. It's going to be a really cool exhibit.
Do you want to guess what $5,000 is in 1979 would be today, adjusted for inflation?
I'm going to say 17 grand.
23,000.
Wow. We're giving away 23,000 in 1979 dollars.
So if you take this $5,000 winner and get a time machine and go back to 1979, it'll be worth the equivalent of $23,000.
Wow. Do you have an app right there on your machine? You did that pretty quick. How'd you do that?
The Google app.
Oh, the Google app. Okay, gotcha.
I just said adjust for inflation calculator, $5,000 in 1979. And then the AI overview kicked it back.
Nice. Well done.
Thank you. Producer and host all in one. Well, I'll be there at Best in Show. And while we are on the subject of big wave guns, let's just acknowledge the Timmy Patterson heroic story from his son, Keone. Tragic, near death tragedy, actually. It's still a tragedy. But Timmy we've all seen photos and videos of this incredible swell in Southern California the last couple of weeks. Biggest in probably 11 plus years. Timmy Patterson was surfing a big wave spot with his son, Keone, and went over the falls on the first wave of a very legitimate set. And I'm going to just read a quote, actually, from the story that was written. I believe it was on Stab Magazine. But when he went over the falls, he got held underwater for a long time. It's not like you're near the beach. It was way out to sea, and the wave energy disappears at the shoreline where it's shallow. So it's kind of an open ocean, and the energy drags you downward. It's a deep wave spot. So he got dragged underwater pretty bad, and there was another 6 or 8 waves behind it. It held him under so long that he actually drowned. He got water in his lungs. Timmy's son, Keone, was right there in the zone and he grabbed him. He swam his dad to the shore. The waves were pushing them in, so they were able to ride the current and get him in, but Keone had to drag him through the rocks on the beach. Keone said an OC lifeguard chief, Jason Young, was on the beach and started pumping Timmy's chest to bring him back to life. They revived him right there on the beach. The ambulance came and took him to the hospital in Mission Viejo. He was hooked up to the oxygen machine and put a tube down his throat. They put him on heavy antibiotics to fight the infection from seawater in his lungs, and he is making a recovery. The doctor said that it could take up to 2 weeks for him to make a recovery, and by the very next day, he was kind of up, moving. They took the tube out then and made a much faster recovery than they anticipated.
Yeah, I heard the word coma being thrown around, like they induced a coma or something like that, but I don't want to put the wrong words into anyone's brain. But regardless, it's horrible. If you're the praying type, consider praying for Timmy. And I reached out, and it's just we're just super glad that it turned out the way it did. It could have just been it could have been, as you said, a tragedy.
Super scary situation, and really unbelievable that his son was there. Like, in terms of a story itself, like his son was there and his son rescuing him is absolutely heroic. And I
Just
have no
imagine
idea.
that. Yeah, I'm
I
sorry
can't
to interrupt.
No, I
Imagine.
can't imagine it. I can't imagine the
Your
fear.
dad's unconscious. You're in a huge surf. You've got two big surfboards, massive amounts of water moving around. You got to put your dad's body up onto the board and then paddling. He's not listening. He's dead. He's lifeless. He's unconscious. And you're paddling him in, and this is your father. Like, that's next level craziness.
The fear of when he was underwater for 6 waves also. You're absolutely, frightened out of your mind. And then to see him come up and to be able to have the wherewithal and the strength and all that kind of thing to actually make it happen is incredible. So kudos, and to the lifeguards as well, because that was a crucial moment for them.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad he has posted some stuff on Instagram. The day he got out of the hospital, he was checking the waves, and that was kind of cute and sweet. And but yeah, man, we're all grateful because he's just a cherished member of the international surfing community, and he and his family too. I mean, I'm so stoked that things are turning for the good here.
What a badass, though, out there, at his age, charging in those conditions for the swell of the decade.
Yeah, big time surf up there too, where he's at.
And his main team rider went on to make the finals in the following days in El Salvador.
That's right, Italo.
But real quick, before we get into that, just kind of want to acknowledge, with that historic swell in Southern California, I saw crazy videos of lifeguard rescues. A couple of people died, actually. Super tragic. And I'm always kind of shocked when I hear these stories because the ocean is so scary looking. It's not as if it's like a calm, placid day and they got sucked out to sea. It's like it's freaking 10-foot shore break in Laguna. Like, I don't know. And it rushes all the way up the beach. Like, I don't know how you arrive on the scene, visually see that and think, I'm going to go play in the water with my kids, So I'm always surprised to hear these stories, but it is super tragic, and it's worth having a PSA of just be super cautious. If you're a tourist or even a competent surfer, you cannot be too cautious in those environments. And then an additional note of just shout out to lifeguards, because I saw them make some heroic rescues in crazy shore break.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, people, if there's not like a loud and proud sign and, something that's like, hey, man, people are, I don't know. I don't want to, it's just unfortunate, and I know there were more than one tragedy occurred because of this big swell and lack of awareness.
There was 2 people sleeping on the beach in Laguna, taking a nap, and they got swept out to sea.
Yeah. Which
is like, the idea of going to sleep on the beach when it's that kind of a swell event is kind of crazy.
There was no signs. There was nobody showed me that I couldn't do, like, that's what I'm getting at. Like, it's like, there's just a lack of awareness. Like, if people aren't slapped in the face and then told, and then, we all look at it like, God, why are there so many signs that tell us all the things that we can and can't do? And it's like, well, because if we don't have signs up, then we're going to get sued.
True. Well, one of the crazier ones, which didn't end in tragedy, was a guy paddled out at Newport who is probably hadn't surfed in 15 years, but he had a surfboard in his garage and he heard there was a swell coming. So he like goes and paddles out. The lifeguards had to rescue him right off the jetty, basically, because he was getting smashed into the rocks. He had this giant beer belly. He had like, I don't even know what kind of shorts he was wearing. And he had his leash duct taped to his ankle because his, like the Velcro was 15 years old and it like wasn't functional. And he was literally going to die. And they like pull him out. And I don't know if it was that story or a different lifeguard or a different story that a lifeguard was saying where they do warn people. Like you're saying, they go, hey, buddy, you don't look qualified to go out there. And the person's response is, what are you talking about? I'm a active surfer. Like I'm fully capable. Don't tell me what to do. I've been looking forward to this day forever. And the lifeguard can't force the guy out of the water until he's rescuing him. Yeah. So again, the hubris is wild from the surfer himself, but also lifeguards have to put their life on the line in order to go save you. And so that's additionally irresponsible.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But, takes all kinds.
Yeah. Normally scenes that are only usually reserved for the North Shore in the wintertime, but Southern California in the summertime occasionally too.
Well, we've got the Super El Nino too. It's going to be, you're going to hear this phrase Super El Nino a lot until you get apps. It's going to be like the phrase blockchain. Like 4 or 5 years ago, everyone was talking blockchain. Nobody's talking blockchain anymore. This year, it's going to be Super El Nino. That's going to be the phrase in the news that you hear more than ever.
Well, it's going to get so used that they're going to have to upgrade it to a super duper El Nino at some point.
Wow,
if you want the clicks, you got to go harder than super. I want to see a super duper El Nino, and then I'm going to click on that story instead.
Super deluxe El Nino, super duper, super deluxe, double super,
super mega XL deluxe.
Yes,
El Nino, of course.
El Nino. It's a little baby, but it's very large.
Right, grande Niño stands for. It translates to the Niño, in case you were unaware.
Okay, fair enough. Look, Leo's big win, first win ever, Punta Roca, WSL News. Big, slashing, powerful, gargantuan hacks. Mother Carissa, as in Mother Teresa, our wonderful woman's champion. She goes back to back. And frankly, a really good event, I thought, for the WSL. There was a few little hiccups and stuff, but overall, from a fan's point of view, I enjoyed watching the event, just as we discussed last week. One of the highlights, I'm not sure if you saw Leo's heat against Marco Mignot. That was probably one of the highlight heats. Marco came out swinging. He nailed some aerials, some very progressive surfing early in the heat. He had 2 waves that equaled something like 13 points before Leo even had a wave. Then Leo's first wave, he fell on doing a huge gack. And that could have been the end of it, But Leo charged back. He got a 9 on his next wave, which was the highest heat score of the event up to that point and maybe throughout the event. And then backed it up and took all the momentum away from Marco Mignot. And that was the heat where you're like, this feels like this is Leo's event.
I think I did mention last week, I was like, Leo could win this event. Like, if you look at his surfing, it's so complete. And he just looks so fit, That
I don't know about complete. I mean, I don't think of Leo as doing airs.
He does.
I know he can do them, but he's not getting invited to stab high. You know what I mean? Like, he's pretty huge in frame. He's strong. To me, he's kind of in that Simon Anderson, Owen Wright. He's just a big, strong man. And it's not, I don't see him as like super Sammy Pupo guy. You know what I'm saying?
You're not wrong, but you also are overlooking a few things. First of all, Owen Wright was throwing crazy airs in Lost Atlas with Kai Neville. Don't roll your eyes at me.
Did
I
you
started hanging out.
Did you see the edit that they put on the cutting room floor of Simon Anderson doing a lot of huge airs?
I missed that one.
Yeah, well,
But I was hanging out with Leo Fioravanti when he was about 12 years old, and he was
yeah, when
doing
he was
airs
a buck 10.
yeah, and
Now
he
he's
was
a
doing
buck
airs back
90.
then. And he can still do them, but I think admittedly he would even say, you're
Yeah.
right, that's not his strong suit.
No.
But I do think he's very complete because he will land them when he does them. And the other thing is him falling in that moment was shocking because he generally doesn't fall. Like when he is so consistent.
Yeah.
But the other thing that Leo has that I think he has, this would be his one thing that he has more than anybody else, is resilience or resiliency. Because he has overcome trial after tribulation after trial over and over. I mean, everybody talks about him breaking his back at Pipe. We remember that for sure. But he's constantly, I feel like he hasn't fully performed to his potential, and yet he's always improving. And so there's so many people that would have given up, I think, by now, or they would have at least lost a certain amount of moxie and determination. And instead of him losing it, he goes right back to the gym and he goes right back to training and he shows up early at the location. And he believes in himself still after all this time of actually not achieving his potential. And so I think there's really something to be said for that. Now, the question mark that I still have is I've never seen somebody underperform for as long as he has. He's been on tour, I think, for 9 years now. This is his first event win. So this is kind of a breakthrough moment for him. But I've never seen somebody underperform for so long, make a breakthrough like this, and then sustain at this level. Often you'll see somebody come from kind of unexpected, from nowhere and win an event randomly because of whatever circumstances, but then they fade back into oblivion. I've never seen somebody sustain at this level after doing this. So that's where I have my question mark. He's in the top 5 now. Can he stay in the top 5, basically?
Well, let me ask you this. Can Leo make the semifinals in Brazil?
Yes.
I would argue that's the longest shot of all the events that are left. Because the Tahiti Pro, I think he could make the semis. Backside at Chopu.
Yes.
The Fiji Pro, backside at Cloudbreak.
Yes.
Yes. The Lexus Pro at Trestles.
Yes.
Semis. Yeah. The big problem here is the Abu Dhabi event. Don't see him really doing too well there.
I mean, how do you not? I mean, the Punta Roca isn't, that's kind of a facsimile for the wave pool. It's not the same, but it's similar.
I guess what I'm getting to is this. Your 2026 world champion, Leo Fioravanti, yes or no? Possibility, yes or no?
Possibility, yes.
Yeah, like greater than, give me some odds here.
The odds would be low. It's a 5% shot, but it's a possibility.
Yeah.
The thing is, he has everything it takes. His
But can he
game
beat
is
Gabe and Italo.
That's the thing. So he just beat Italo. Italo was injured. I think
Italo beats himself sometimes.
I think that was more the problem. That heat that Italo surfed was his most poorly surfed heat of the event. He didn't even catch a wave. Like, he didn't have a meaningful score until like 10 minutes left or something like that. And he was just sitting around for a lot of it. There was a lot of waves that had the potential for him to go on, and I don't know why he wasn't. So he did a lot of sitting. Obviously, he had 8 stitches in his knee. But the other thing that I think was a culprit here is fatigue. So finals day, they surfed a lot of heats. It's all day in the sun. They went until it was dark. The sun was down by the time the final ran. And obviously, El Salvador zaps the energy out of you. I think Italo is tremendously fit, but there's no mistake why those two guys were in the final. They're two of the fittest guys on tour, basically. But I think that fatigue played a role for Italo.
That's some good insight. And we were talking about electrolytes and how important they are. Let me ask you this. Italo, would you agree, Italo and Kanoa Igarashi are kind of the same guy in some respects, at least from a scoring perspective. Super consistent. You're guaranteed 6s and 7s. You're going to get a 13 or a 14-point heat total probably. If you agree with that assumption, who finishes higher, Italo or Kanoa?
Italo every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
And why do you think
explosive.
that is? Because you brought it up earlier. I think his mental for I think Idolo's like in the perfect place. He's oh, excuse me, Leo. I mean Leo. Leo's in the perfect place. So Leo versus Kanoa. Did I make myself clear? I meant
No, you said
Leo.
Italo versus Kanoa.
No, I meant Leo versus Kanoa. They're kind of the same guy. They're sevens. They're right. So
Yeah.
Leo versus Kanoa. Who's who finishes higher?
Now I'm going to give it to Leo.
Yeah.
I wouldn't always have, but now I give it to Leo. I don't know. There's a muscle. There's an extra weight. Like he's more powerful. Kanoa still looks like a kid to me.
But I think it's up here, and I don't mean to take anything away from Kanoa's mind frame because I actually do think it's pretty strong. I'm not saying that Kanoa's got a weak mental state, that he doesn't have what it takes to win, because we know he does. But if I'm putting them side by side, I feel like all those things, all those issues, those trials and tribulations that you brought up that Leo has faced through his career have now just made that mind and that determination just solid like a steel trap. And Andy got married. He seems very happy. His social situation is completely squared away. He's like ready to move into probably fatherhood if he hasn't already. I can't speak to that. But there seems to be like a real sense of maturity, I guess I should say.
Leo has an opportunity to make a run right here. He's never been in this position. I feel like his confidence level is high. Like he had the ability to do it before, but he didn't know maybe that he was on the same level as those top 5 guys. And I think he's proven it to himself at this point that if he can maintain that level of confidence and continue to execute with the level of consistency that he was executing in El Salvador, he will maintain the top 5 position. And it's refreshing to see. That's the other thing from the viewer standpoint and from the judge's standpoint. We know what Gabe's going to do. We know what Italo's going to do. And so if they don't do it to the beyond the level that we've seen them do it before, they almost get downscored. Leo is kind of leveling up right now. He's on the ascent still. And so we just want to see more from him. And I think that's going to benefit well for him. So I'm a huge fan. I was always fine with him. I had nothing against him, but the way that he was surfing, it was actually kind of remindful of Ethan Ewing's approach and style. And I think that Ethan has a little bit more style than Leo has just naturally, but the approach and the amount of power and the precision and the torque is very similar. And I'm here for it. Like having power kind of return as the focal point, I'm here for.
I totally agree with that. I loved the power surfing. There was some discussion that Leo surfing was similar to the big turns that John Florence does, the ones we're used to seeing him do at Margaret River, just these huge, massive power hacks where he's controlling the rail all the way through to a carved top turn, down turn. What's the difference between John Florence's turn and Leo's turn?
The size of the wave. Like John does those.
Let's just say they're both at Punta Roca.
I don't think there's much difference at Punta Roca. I mean, I've seen John do it on triple overhead waves at Haleiwa that you're just like, what the hell? Like,
yeah.
So that's a power situation. I think Leo kind of has that power now, maybe, but I haven't seen him do it on big waves yet. It's a different story going toe to toe with Haleiwa.
Yeah. Going toe to toe with John in those turns. That would be a fun thing to see.
I'm thrilled for it. Like here, we as the fans won in this event because really the surfing was phenomenal by almost everybody. And so being able to see Leo level up in this way was a total delight, and I'm engaged. I'm actually rooting for him in Saquarema.
Yeah, I would totally agree with everything you just said there. Idolo, Gabe, Leo, Iago, and Miguel Pupo. Those are your top 5. They're separated by 8,000 points, number 1 to number 5. Do you know how many USA surfers are in the top 20?
2?
Yeah.
Oh, I just guessed.
2. 2 USA surfers in the top 20. Griffin, Colapinto, Crosby, Colapinto, 10th and 16th, respectively.
Which is, I mean, honestly, Crosby, it's probably where I would expect Crosby to be, but Griffin, that's way lower than I expected Griff. Also, among the top 5, it's worth noting, 4 of them are goofy-footed Brazilians. Leo's the only non-goofy-footed Brazilian. So it's the year of the goofy.
Yeah, it's so interesting, I guess, with this sort of nation state in the recent zeitgeist because of the World Cup. I look at it and it's the year of the Brazilians.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Another word before we get into the rankings in the Brazil event, I just wanted to talk about Al Cleland Jr., your homeboy. Put on a pretty incredible performance. He does it once a year, basically, maybe twice a year, and then we're all kind of rooting for him to do it again in the other events, and he doesn't necessarily put it together, but when he puts it together, he is a real unique surfer to have on tour and a real attribute, I think.
Yeah, he's got like early Gary Kong Elkerton vibes, just super power. And then Gary got rid of the Kong mojo and kind of took his game to another level competitively and got real serious about this is his life. This is more than his lifestyle. This is his job. And Elkerton went on to have a pretty great career. And I think that's what's required of Alan Cleland at this point. Like, it's been fun traveling the world for a couple of years, being on tour, and just showing pure raw power when the opportunity presents himself. But he's going to, he's going to the surf pool. He's going to friggin' lowers. He's going to Rio. And for Alan to get to that next level, some things have got to change. I'm not sure what they are. I'm not his coach or anything, but he's not somebody you go, yeah, I can see Alan in the semis in Rio, that's got to change. You got to be able to say, as a fan, you got to be able to say, yeah, I can see that.
So I don't think it's his surfing that has to change. I think it's probably lifestyle. And I don't know him at all. But the second thing people always mention about him is he loves drinking beer. The first thing is his aggressive, unbridled approach, and then and that kid loves to party, and so I'm like, I think the surfing is his attribute. Like, he cannot get rid or change his surfing and I think have the success. It's the consistency. And so how do you get consistency? And it's kind of erasing all the other extraneous variables in your life. So if you can erase those and maybe replace them with whatever program Leo is on, I think we'd see that Al Cleland that we know and love on two best
That's what I'm saying. I can see that happening. There was an interview with him where he was mentioning that they were doing practice heats with Snake, with Jake Patterson as his coach. And they were just doing practicing surfing in heats, which is super beneficial. That's the kind of thing that needs to happen. An adjustment to, this is my career. This is no longer this lifestyle. This is like, hey, I want to do this for 5 or 6 years. I got to kind of crack down.
Did they say that he's recently working with Jake? This is a new thing?
This was him doing an interview, and he said that he was doing practice heats, and he mentioned Snake.
I'm wondering if it's a new relationship.
It felt like it was like a Quicksilver team thing almost.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I loved seeing it, and he drew Gabriel Medina and took it to him. That's the other thing that we love about Al is, like, doesn't matter who he draws. He's just going to go do his surfing. And his surfing also, sometimes you see a surfer try to, if they know the other person's doing airs, they feel like, oh, I got to do some airs to kind of get those scores. Al never does that. He's like, there's 2 sections on this wave. It might be a long wave, but there's only 2 meaningful sections. I'm just going to do 2 turns and let it be. And he does them so well, he gets an 8.
I love that.
Me too.
He's got Dane Reynolds vibes in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also don't think it can be overstated the importance of Carissa Moore going back to back with 2 wins. Again, entering this season after taking time off to become a mom. We thought maybe she'd be gone for good. Her legacy is written, So there was a big question mark about how she would be able to perform against these young, hot, up-and-comer girls who have all this attention, and she's smashing them left and right. And again, new mom on tour, 2 wins back-to-back. 2 wins back-to-back is a big deal no matter what.
Well, look, for the last couple of years, and especially going into this year, we were all about the new young crop of women surfers who were supposed to come onto the scene and just light it up. Here's your top 5. Gabriella Bryan, Carissa Moore, Molly Picklum, Luana Silver, and Lakey Peterson. Of those 5, you tell me, are any of them in that group that we thought?
3 of them, I'd say.
Okay. Molly, Gabriel, and Luana.
Yeah, Luana is 21, I think.
Luana wasn't really one we were talking about. We were like, Aaron Brooks, Katie Simmers. Were you?
No, that was our oversight, though. I mean, she's been right there doing her thing. And Molly Picklum's part of that new Aaron Brooks, or maybe, Caitlin Simmers age group. And Gabriella Bryan is too. So Carissa and Lakey being there were not what we anticipated, but Carissa's smashing them. I mean, she's in second, but she has 2 event wins. So.
I'll tell you what, Tyler Wright and Carolyn Marks are just an event away from being in this top 5. And all of a sudden you've got Carissa, Tyler, Carolyn Marks, who are, in, I guess what we would say, not the new school. I don't know a better way to paraphrase that. And Lakey Peterson.
Yeah, Lakey I didn't anticipate.
What's the phrase for not the new school? You don't want to say old school. You can't say that.
Middle-aged school. College age. So to your point, all 4 surfers in this final, 2 men, 2 women, are above 27 years old, and 3 of them were more than 30.
Yeah, and
that's a rarity.
8 feet.
Yeah, that's a rarity. So Carissa Moore surfed against Tyler Wright in her final. Do you have any thoughts at all, or do we dare discuss Tyler Wright's claim that has been controversial on the internet?
Please, let's take a quick break, and I want to hear all about this.
We'll tease it. You saw it, though, right?
I did not see it. Can you show it?
If you want to see it.
Yeah, I want to see it.
I'll cue it up.
Okay.
Welcome back. Man, you're going to regret asking to see this clip.
Oh, no.
It is what it is. It's being talked about by all of our listeners on the internet, and pro surfers are engaged in it. Pro surfers are engaging in the comments section. So let's go ahead and review. Tyler Wright making a sexually explicit claim to the judges after she kicks out of a wave. She posted this clip on her Instagram, including the basketball player with it. And the caption says, "Happy Pride Month," is what she posted on Instagram.
Let me just say this, that first and foremost, I'm all for free expression. I think it's you're allowed to do what you want to do, and there's probably, it could be argued perhaps classier ways, or more, there could be like, but it's on brand. Let me just say that it's on brand. That doesn't surprise me. I don't think it surprises you that comes from Tyler. What's some of the feedback out there? Tell me about the feedback, because I'm hesitant to just jump on and start piling on, and it's not something that I would suggest that she continue to do. It's like, I think that maybe you could find a better sort of claim, like, it's actually not a very good claim, in fact, as far as like, it's, this is much more raising your hands or doing something like when you put your hand on your face. It was kind of confusing. I wasn't really even sure what went down there. And
okay, let me give you a take on it. First of all, your screen is frozen. Is it frozen on your end? No,
it's not frozen on my end.
Okay, I'm presuming it'll kick back in then in a minute, so I'm just going to leave it as is. The claim, for those who are just listening to the audio and maybe they're not on the internet, she needed a score. She surfed a wave to a 6.43. So I already have an issue. I take umbrage with claiming a 6.43, first of all. That was the biggest offense to me. And the claim, for those who didn't see it, was mimicking oral sex, performing oral sex on a female, basically. So she did it in the event live. I didn't see it live, but the clip that I just showed you, she posted on Instagram. So not only did she do it live, but then she took the clip and amplified it out through her social media, essentially doubled down on it, edited with the basketball player also doing it, in a super explicit song explaining what she's doing, like a rap song that explains what she's doing. So I'm just scrolling Instagram. I see this and I'm like, what the hell is this? And then you open up the comment section and there's notables. There's CJ Hobgood commenting, Salema Masakela commenting, like a bunch of notable surfers in the surf world sharing their opinion. And it was very, very polarizing. There was people, I think CJ's comment was something to the effect of, this hill is the one that you want to die on. Think about your legacy, or something like that. Salema, on the other hand, took the opposite approach, where he was like, good on you. You're a badass. The surf world needs more personality. Good on you for showcasing your personality. I got an email from a listener that I think helped sum up some of it. He said, his name's Noah, by the way, and he said, some insights to consider. Jet Schilling landed in air in the latest stab high, and he did the same gesture as a claim. CJ Hobgood, Yada Nickel, and Josiah Miko all were in the commentary booth, and they reacted negatively. It was brought up in the next Stab Mike podcast episode, and Duma and Dane Reynolds were not stoked on the claim. Tyler does the same thing for a 6-point ride. She doubles down by posting the video as some sort of point or representation to the LGBTQ community. There are many ways to promote that community, and Tyler has chosen this song and gesture to do it. Salema saying nobody cried when Jet did it at Stab High is just not true. Nobody supported it at Stab High. Anyway, it's worth debating whether or not it seems more acceptable if a guy does it versus a girl. Are there claims that the WSL should consider appropriate? Because the WSL has a double standard. They did not accept Mason Ho doing, grabbing his crotch at Pipeline when he got spit out of a wave. And when he says not accepting, I don't know if you remember that, but they didn't show the replays. They cut away from it. They didn't comment on it, and then they didn't show the replays. And the real question is, does the LGBTQ community feel obligated to agree with this post? Which I think is kind of an interesting question as well.
Yeah, so a couple things. I think that both CJ and Salema can both be right or correct. Like I think they both are valid points. But the last thing you said was really the most fascinating part of this, right? And why don't you repeat that last little question, which I think does the LGBTQ community
feel obligated to agree with this post?
Yeah, do you have to because it's one of yours?
Right.
Like, what would Billie Jean King say? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, I think of like classy champions that are in that community. And yeah, so.
Well, so I think the LGBTQ community is as nuanced as the straight community is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So but publicly, there may be some sort of a pressure when you're part of a minority group to support the group no matter what. And I think that becomes problematic. If you feel like you cannot share your own opinion or your own insights and your own history and your own context, you just have to go with the crowd to support getting the minority out of the minority situation, then I think that can actually be problematic because it paints the minority group as a stereotype, which is not progressive.
Yeah, it's almost like you're doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
Well, very interesting. People talking about it. It's really neither here nor there in the big picture of things, in my opinion.
I think my personal opinion is I'm not a fan of it, but I am a fan of having characters in surfing. And I think at the time that like Dennis Rodman was with the Bulls, I was not a fan of him either. But when I look back at it historically, I see how much value there was in having him as a character, and so I might feel differently about this moving on. The reason why I'm never a fan of it in the moment is because it's so different than my personality is. Like I would never utilize, I don't know, sexual, sex act as a way to celebrate something just seems crazy to me, and like also denigrating to the intimacy of the sex act itself. And so I would just never celebrate that way. And I feel like it's not the legacy that I would want to leave behind, but also I'm not Tyler Wright. And maybe she's clearly proud of that, leaving that legacy behind, and wants it as part of her branding. So I kind of get it, but
Yeah, the more I think about it, I just think it does a disservice to the community. You know, like, in other words, there's more about that community than sex acts. And she sort of boiled it down to, this is what our community is all about. And I know that's not how she thinks, but, you know, what about just like loving kindness and tolerance? Isn't that sort of the message that we want to convey about this community?
Great point, because her caption specifically said Happy Pride Month. And that was the only caption to that act. So that would be like me, I mean, maybe I shouldn't even make the comparison, but that'd be like me taking my loving relationship with my wife and condensing it down to
a sex act.
Physical intimacy. Yeah, exactly.
It lacks foresight. It lacks, it's not cool, basically. Like if I was in that community and I felt the way I felt, I'd be like, that doesn't speak to me, and it really does the community a disservice. Is that because it gives everybody on the other side of the equation the ability to go, oh, see, they're just gross, rude. That's what this community is all about, and I think there's more to it, much, much more to it than that.
Again, my biggest gripe with all this is claiming a 6.43.
I agree with you. That's actually the problem is, I don't think Dennis Rodman ever really claimed anything. He was kind of just like going big on the defense and then running back up the court, and for all of his outward garishness, he was sort of a worker's worker. He was like defensive player,
I think he was claiming everything. Every single time he did any of that, he would stick his tongue out.
You'd be surprised. I mean, I don't know. I could be proven wrong, but many of the years he had Michael Jordan lording over him, and I don't know. You know what? Those old school 90s basketball, that was just the best, man. Michael Jordan clips, and he's in my algorithm on my Instagram, and it is awesome, man. And like Larry Bird, you get those algorithms in your feed, and you're just inspired by those guys.
That was a heyday. There'd be no reason for me to have ever told you this, but when I was about 20 years old, there was like a 5-year span. Dennis Rodman went to my church.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. Every Sunday?
Every Sunday for a period of time. Like, he had met this young girl. Like, I have a feeling she was the one who was pulling him to church. He seemed like he didn't want to be there. Yeah. But sure enough, one week I show up at church and freaking Dennis Rodman's sitting right there, like super close to me. Yeah. And then, he would come. He became like an active member in the church, not just showing up on the weekends. And he was actually a pretty active member in the community. So it was Newport Beach, California. He had a house right on the sand as well, like right at like 52nd Street-ish.
Party house.
So it turned into a party house. So that's kind of the narrative arc here is showing up at church. I'd go surfing all the time. You'd see his car. Like, you knew it was his car. You knew which house it was in. Had like a, whatever. I don't even remember what it was at the time. Lamborghini or something. And you wouldn't really see him, but you would see like traces of him, like the car. And then all of a sudden there'd be parties happening regularly. And he was showing up to church a little bit less and less. Then I remember a helicopter landing on the sand at one point. Like, he took a helicopter in and the city had to fine him because he wasn't allowed to do that. And eventually he stopped coming to church altogether. And the news reported that he and his wife had split up.
Yeah, I think he moved away. I do remember that. That was making the local news here, the Dennis Rodman craziness.
And then news stories of him going to North Korea and try to broker some sort of a peace deal. And you're like,
oh,
what?
That's right. He's buddies with the North Korean guy.
So I don't know what he's up to today, but whatever.
I forgot all about that. Oh, man.
Anyways, Tyler Wright, you do you.
Yeah, whatever. It's all good.
Well, I got a story actually. Before we get fully off of El Salvador, did you see that email that came in from a longtime listener about his experience in La Libertad?
Yeah, do you want to read that?
I think it's fun.
I do too.
All right. Hey, Scott and David, thought you'd enjoy this. Summer of 1971. I was working as a room service waiter at La Costa when a buddy of mine, Efron Osoro, who is from El Salvador, mentioned going down there and asked if I wanted to come along. We left July 1st. True story. Efren had a GTO with a 327 and a 4-speed, and we strapped the boards to the roof and we hit the freeway. By the time we passed Manchester and Encinitas, the boards were starting to fly off the car. Classic start. For anybody who doesn't know, that's basically 5 miles down the road. I checked with Mike Hinson, who was shaping at Bill Bainey's Fins Unlimited. Hinson told me if I brought him a blank the next day, he'd shape me a board. I bought the blank at Mitch's, showed up, and Hinson said, and I quote, "It's like you, it's guys like you that F up my whole day," end quote. Then he grabbed it and shaped it into an awesome 7-foot hard down railer right there in about 30 to 40 minutes. Had it glassed at Bainey's, red on the bottom, clear deck. Once we got down to El Salvador, Efren had to head to San Salvador to see some family. So he dropped me off for 7 days with a local family in La Libertad. I surfed the point every single day, and it was incredible. We also surfed Sanzal, and the board rode great. And the food and the hospitality were excellent. Anyways, that's my 2 cents from the road. Dave A.
That's a cool story. I love that story. I love Mike Hinson up there on the hill giving him grief. And hey, man, 71, Punta Roca, it's probably magical.
Sounds incredible. Probably nobody out.
No, nobody.
Yeah, ridiculous. What a memory.
I know. That's cool, Dave. Thanks for listening. He's a loyal listener, Dave.
Long-time listener. Man, I remember getting emails from Dave 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Couple of closing things. I don't know how many people follow Morgan Maassen's career. I've always been a fan of Morgan Maassen and the direction that he's taken. And he occasionally comes back and dabbles in the surf world and creates high art. So he's got a new YouTube video, short film that he just put out. It's called Ran, R-A-N, and it's a Scandinavian surf film featuring a surfer I had never heard of called Freddie Meadows, surfing in the Baltic, and then also takes a trip to South Africa. So you see him surf J-Bay. Actually, Namibia as well. He gets a couple of waves in Namibia. But Morgan Maassen's just visual aesthetic is mesmerizing. So big fan if you want to check that out.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
If you want to join Luke Cederman and I at another long left, Chacama, Peru, we're going in August. It's August 22nd. I have not checked to see if that final room is filled up or not, but reach out, waterwaystravel.com. You can go directly, Chris at Waterways Travel, or just email me, hello at Surf Splendor Podcast. Go to surfsplendorpodcast.com to see the details. It's August 22nd for a 6-night stay, and it's going to be incredible. And we've got a little bit of space left as far as I last know, and Luke Cederman's coming. So why wouldn't you?
That's cool. You guys are going to have a good time for sure.
And then, of course, Surfrider Foundation, surfrider.org, has been doing the hard work for 41 years now. Beach cleanups, legislation on Capitol Hill, all in an effort to keep the oceans healthy, which is essential for humanity. So become a member at surfrider.org.
Absolutely. Well, look, we've said a lot.
I got one more.
One more thing.
I got one more. I didn't, I mentioned the Morgan Maassen film. That's not actually my must-see moment. It was up until I watched Ritualistic Tendencies. And our must-see moment is presented by treeswax.com. Promo code SPIT to save 20% and get your money-back guarantee online. petroleum-free surf wax made from rocks and trees. Have you seen Ritualistic Tendencies yet, Scott?
No, but I feel like I've seen. Is this on Stab?
I don't. I'm sure that they would
Is this
have.
the Chapter 11 thing?
No,
Is this the Dane Reynolds thing? No,
no.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's insane. It's 100 or a 1 hour surf film actually. Ritualistic Tendencies. So it's a reference to an eyewear company that was started about a year ago. I think they're called Ritualistic Vision. But basically, it's all these Australian surfers who you know and love, with a couple of others like Parker Coffin. But it's Mikey Wright, it's Noah Dean, Lungi Slab. There's a few others, Mila Coca Brown, a few others that I'm definitely leaving out. Wade Goodall, Dion Agius. And I'm like, these guys have all surfed together and had parts in various films together. And I feel like they're all good buddies, but they're not all on the same sponsor. So it's like they created an eyewear brand just so they could all be on the same team and travel and make surf films together. And it's the best of the best. It's absolutely insane. They're doing 10-foot airs on crazy sections. They get Greenbush. The final section of the film is Greenbush, double the size I've ever seen it. Like when the waves are hitting the ledge, it looks like Chopu, but it's way longer. It's a wild, wild film. Oh, Harry Bryant was another of the important featured surfers in the film.
Is Koa Smith in that?
No Koa Smith. No. But they're just sending it, like absolutely sending it on huge sections, huge airs. They go to Morocco. They score Morocco. It's the best surf film I've seen all year long, for sure. It's just hardcore, full throttle surfing for an hour. So if you haven't watched it, you should. I mentioned Coco Mila Brown, or Mila Coco Brown, actually, sorry. We always talk about the women who are on tour, like the new crop of surfers on the women's side who are going to change the game, and we focus on the CT surfers. Mila Coco Brown is insane. She's right there at the same level, and I'm just a huge fan. She's got incredible style, panache, personality. So it'd be worth watching the film just to watch her section.
Cool. Well, where can I get it?
YouTube. It's been on YouTube for 6 days. It has about 70,000 views.
Okay. Ritualistic Tendencies. Maybe my microphone will spit it into my algorithm.
Please just say it 3 or 4 times. YouTube.
Right.
Ritualistic Tendencies.
Right. Okay. Well, anything else, David?
I think that's all I got this week.
Look, you've said a lot. I haven't said anything really worth remembering. But until next time, adios and aloha.